For 7 years, my son-in-law kept saying the same line, "I'm running out of money." And every time he said it, I sent more, because I believed I was doing what my daughter no longer could, making sure her child never went without. He asked for rent, tuition, food, emergency repairs. When the car broke down, then came therapy costs for my grandchild, because losing her mother was traumatic. He said it well, so well that a man like me had no choice but to nod and transfer the money. Until yesterday, my grandchild, only 11, grabbed my hand at the park. Her eyes kept darting around, like she thought someone might be watching from the sky. She pulled out a phone, opened the photo gallery, and whispered, "Grandpa, Dad told me not to say anything, but this is his new house." I looked at the screen. Tall iron gates, a perfectly trimmed lawn, a 2-car garage, warm yellow lights glowing through the windows, and right by the entrance, a sign that read, "Welcome home." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because I didn't want to believe it. "That's just his friend's house," I said. She shook her head, firm. "No," I heard him say. "Our house is finally done." Then she added quietly, "He told me, if you find out, you'll stop helping." In that moment, 7 years of sending money stopped being support and turned into something else. A question that made my stomach drop. What kind of man says he's broke and lives like that? And worse, why is he teaching a child to keep secrets from her own grandfather? I looked at her. She was holding that phone like it was evidence, and I understood. My son-in-law wasn't just taking money. He was teaching a child how to lie so he could keep bleeding me dry. I didn't send money because I believed in him. I sent it because my daughter was gone, and my grandchild was the only thing left that still carried her breath. The day of the funeral, my son-in-law, Evan, stood in front of me, red eyes, hoarse voice, like he had died with her. "Dad, I promise I'll raise the kid. I won't let anything happen to them. But I'm in debt. I'm stuck. I don't know how to get out of this. So I set a rule, a fixed amount every month, to keep things stable." Evan nodded immediately. And then he said the one sentence that softened me. "I'm not asking for myself. I'm asking for the child." He was good at that, turning everything into for the child and me. Like so many grandfathers, I turned myself into a lifeline. For 7 years, I sent money. Every time he texted, "Urgent," I clenched my teeth and transferred. I told myself, money can be earned again. A child's childhood can't. But what did I get in return? A few rushed photos, a short call on holidays, and slowly, I saw my grandchild less and less. Evan always had a reason. Extra classes, therapy sessions. If you visit, they'll miss their mother more. It all sounded reasonable. Too reasonable. That was the trap. The one time I asked for receipts, he gave me just one line. "Don't you trust me?" And I stayed quiet, because I was afraid. Afraid of becoming the cruel one. Afraid that if I pushed harder, my grandchild would suffer. Until the day they showed me the new house. That's when I understood something I didn't want to face. I wasn't afraid of my son-in-law. I was afraid of the truth. Because the truth might prove that for 7 years, I wasn't raising my grandchild. I was funding a man, living comfortably on my grief. I didn't question my grandchild like an interrogation. Kids shut down when they feel cornered. So I kept it light, like asking about school. "When did you go to that house?" She answered, "On the weekend. Dad drove me there. He told me to call it his friend's house. But my room had new things, a new bed, and Dad smiled like it was our home. A gun. A gun, Dada. Are you sure?" She nodded firmly. "He even showed it off to that lady. She took pictures. And Dad told me, 'Don't tell Grandpa. He'll misunderstand. And then he won't help us anymore.'" The moment I heard "won't help anymore," I understood everything. Evan had turned money into a leash. He taught my grandchild that telling the truth would break the family. That's the dirtiest kind of manipulation, turning a child into the gatekeeper of an adult's lies. I asked one more question. Is anyone living there with your dad? She hesitated. I saw that lady there. She calls him honey. Dad told me to call her auntie. I swallowed my anger. I didn't need to guess anymore. A man who claimed to be broke for 7 years, but had a new house, an auntie, and someone calling him honey. Where did my money go? I took her home and told her gently, from now on, don't talk about that house with your dad. Just act normal. If he asks, tell him you forgot. She looked at me, eyes red. Grandpa, are you mad at me? I shook my head. No, you just did the most right thing in your life. You told the truth. Back home, I opened 7 years of bank statements, not to grieve, to find patterns. Because people who lie like this always follow a system. And if that house was real, then somewhere in those numbers, there would be a trail leading straight to it. That night, I went back through everything I had ignored. Every time Evan asked for money, every urgent message, every time he changed accounts, every time he said, rent went up, and then I saw it. He didn't ask when he needed money. He asked when he wanted money. There was 1 month he texted, Dad, I'm about to get evicted. But that same month, I saw a photo he posted. A restaurant, dim lights, a glass of wine, a steak, no faces, just the lifestyle, the kind of post a man makes when he wants to show off, but not enough to get caught. I told myself, maybe someone invited him. Once? Sure. But for 7 years? If someone kept inviting him, there was only one person paying. Me. Then I remembered something else. A few months ago, I showed up at his place unannounced. He opened the door, talking about how tight things were, but I saw the watch on his wrist new, the car outside clean, polished. I saw it, and I chose not to see it, because I was afraid that making it a problem would hurt my grandchild. Now I understand. That silence fed him. I sent Evan a message, just to test him. I want to see this month's school expenses. He replied immediately, right on script. Dad, don't you trust me? That kind of question puts a lot of pressure on me. Pressure? An honest man doesn't feel pressure. Showing receipts, only a liar does. And then my grandchild said something that settled everything. Dad always tells me, don't let Grandpa know too much. Not, don't worry him. Not, don't upset him. Just, don't let him know. I stood up and said it out loud. From now on, no one in this house is going to live off Evan's secrets. The next step was turning what I felt into the one thing Evan feared most. Proof. I sat down with my laptop and opened 7 years of bank statements. I stopped looking at individual transactions. I looked at the total. $2,500 a month. 12 months. 7 years. $2,500 times 12 equals $30,000. $30,000 times 7 equals $210,000. $210,000. That's not help. That's a down payment on a house. Then I looked at the timeline, and I noticed something strange. At the end of almost every quarter, Evan would ask for extra expenses. And around those same times, I saw outgoing transfers from his account to names that sounded like contractors. Stoneworks, Bright Build, Home Pro Services. Before, I didn't question it. I assumed it was repairs. But now, after seeing that house, those names meant something else. I lined up the dates. There was a series of large transfers about 10 months ago, the exact time my grandchild started being taken to that friend's house. Then I saw one word that made my throat tighten. Escrow. A real estate escrow account. What kind of broke man has escrow transactions? I didn't jump to conclusions, but I knew. I was getting close. I called a friend who works in forensic accounting. I need you to trace something. I think Evan used my money to buy a house. There was a pause on the other end. Then he said, if there's a house, there's paperwork. And if he hid it under a company, I can still pull it. I hung up, looked at the photo my grandchild showed me, and made the decision. This wasn't just a bad son-in-law. This was a 7-year fraud. I met with Rick, the investigator, and Dana, my lawyer. I didn't tell a long story. I put everything on the table. The photo of the house, the bank statements, and my grandchild's words. Dad told me not to tell. Dana looked at the photo and asked immediately, do you have the address? I shook my head. Rick gave a faint smile. Don't need it. A gate like that, and a few details. I can find it. Dana laid out the plan. Clear, precise, like a verdict already written. First, property records. We find out who owns that house. Evan, or an LLC. Second, trace the money. Your transfers, Evan's accounts, escrow, contractors, mortgage. Third, get him to talk. We need him saying he's broke, while the evidence shows he bought a house. Rick added, don't confront him directly. He'll wipe everything and take the kid. We bait him. With money. I looked at them. How? Dana answered without hesitation. You text him. I'm thinking of increasing support and setting up an education fund. We need to meet and sign paperwork and review expenses. A greedy man will show up. I nodded, not because I liked playing dirty, but because I understood something now. With someone who lives off lies, being polite is how you lose. That night, I sent Evan one message. I want to discuss increasing support this year. Let's meet this weekend to sign the education fund paperwork. He replied almost instantly. Yes, Dad. Thank you. See that? He thanked me for the money, not for the family. I turned off my phone and looked at my grandchild sleeping, and I said it quietly to myself. For 7 years, I was wrong, but from now on, I'm going to do this right. 2 days later, Rick texted me. I've got the address. Not maybe. Not I think. I've got it. He sent a screenshot from public property records. The house in my grandchild's photo was owned by a company I'd never heard of. Silver Pine Holdings, LLC. I frowned. That's not Evan. Rick gave a dry smile. A smart man doesn't put his name on it. He stands behind it. He dug deeper. The LLC had been formed 11 months ago, the exact same time those contractor and escrow payments started showing up in Evan's statements. The registered address? A mailbox office. The kind of address for someone who doesn't want to knock on the door. Dana studied the documents, then pointed at one line. The buyer's signature. She paused. It's Evan. I went silent. A man who claims he's broke. Signing for a house? Rick added. And here's the best part. There's a mortgage but a large down payment. And the date of that down payment? He looked at me. Matches the exact day you sent that extra support transfer. My heart started pounding. Not because of the money. Because I finally saw the truth clearly. My son-in-law had turned my grief into his capital. Dana's voice was calm. Cold. We don't need assumptions anymore. We connect 3 things. Your transfers, his escrow payments, and the purchase. Once that chain is clear, he has nowhere left to perform. I looked at the photo of the house again. The iron gate, the 2-car garage, the warm lights, and suddenly it felt wrong, like every brick had been built out of the words. Dad, I'm struggling, Rick asked. Do you want to confront him now? I shook my head. No, I want him to look me in the eye and say he's broke. Then I'll put that house right in front of him. Dana brought in a forensic accountant to review Evan's statements by transaction clusters. They didn't chase individual charges. They followed the path of the money. What came back hit me like a hammer. Every month, my transfer went into Evan's account, and within 24 to 48 hours, it split into 3 directions: escrow, title company, contractors, stoneworks, bright build, furniture and home stores. There was 1 month Evan texted, "Rent just went up. I sent the money." The very next day, the statement showed, granite countertop deposit, kitchen stone, not rent, an upgrade. I let out a dry laugh. I had paid for his countertops, while my grandchild believed I was paying for school. Dana printed a flowchart and set it in front of me. Arrows, dates, amounts, clean as math, dirty as fraud. "We need one more thing," she said. His words. "So he can't turn around and say, 'You gave the money willingly.' No conditions." Rick nodded. "We get him to say he's broke, and that your money is for the child. Once he says it, we put the property records on the table." I looked at the chart again. Anger. And something worse. Not because I lost money, but because I let a man use my daughter's death as cover. I said it quietly. No way he builds a house with my money, and still makes me feel guilty for asking questions. Dana handed me the message to send. "I'm planning to increase support this year, but I need to review expenses and sign paperwork for an education fund. Let's meet tomorrow night." I pressed send, and just like we expected, Evan replied within a minute. "Yes, Dad. Thank you." Before the meeting, I needed to be sure of one thing. My grandchild was safe, and she hadn't been taught that I was the villain. I took her out to dinner. I didn't bring up the new house right away. I just asked, "Has your dad told you anything lately?" She looked down at her plate, then said quietly, "Dad told me not to talk about the new house. He said you'd get mad and stop helping." I asked, "What does your dad say I'm like?" She hesitated. "He says you're suspicious, and that you don't understand how hard things are." See, that one hit me in the throat. Evan wasn't just taking my money. He was poisoning me in the child's mind to keep her quiet. Because once a child believes Grandpa is the bad one, she'll start protecting the lie on her own. Then she told me something else. One time I asked, "If we're poor, why is the house so big?" Dad said, "You're too little to ask that. Adults handle these things. Adults handle these things." But the only thing he was handling was the secret, and the flow of money. I put my hand over hers. "Listen to me. None of this is your fault. You did the right thing by telling the truth." She looked at me, eyes red. "Grandpa, don't tell Dad I told you." I nodded. "I'm not going to use you to fight your father." I didn't want her to become a weapon in an adult war, but I also wasn't going to let her keep living as the guard standing in front of his lies. Before I took her home, I told her just one thing. If your dad tells you to hide something again, just say, "I forgot." Then call me. She nodded and let out a breath, like she had been carrying something too heavy for too long. That night, I looked at the clock. Tomorrow, I would meet Evan, and I already knew something. When I put those house records on the table, he wasn't going to cry because he hurt a child. He was going to panic, because the money was about to stop. I met Evan at Riverside, corner table, the kind of place people use to talk about family. My phone was face up, recording on just like Dana told me. Rick sat a few tables away, like a stranger reading the news. Evan walked in, well-dressed. He shook my hand, said, "Thank you, Dad," but his eyes kept scanning the room, like a man who didn't want to be seen. He sat down, first sentence out of his mouth. "So," I stayed calm. "Before we talk money, I want to hear it again. You're struggling, right?" He nodded immediately. The performance came on. "You know how it is. I'm barely keeping up. I can hardly provide for her." I nodded. "Then the money I've been sending for 7 years. Rent, school, living expenses. That all goes to my grandchild, correct?" He exhaled, playing the exhausted father. "Yes, Dad. Everything I do is for her." I let him talk. The more he spoke, the tighter he tied the rope around his own neck. Then I made the offer. "I can increase support this year, but I need transparency I want to see the last 12 months of expenses. That's when the irritation slipped through. Dad. I looked straight at him. I trust my grandchild. I need paperwork. He bit his lip, holding the mask in place. But masks only work when there's no evidence. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick envelope. Evan's eyes flickered, just for half a second. Greed, right there on his face. I set the envelope on the table. This decides whether I send another dollar. He sat up straighter. Okay, tell me what you need. I held his gaze. First, one more time. You're broke. And every dollar I sent went to my grandchild. He nodded. Locked in. Good. I slid the envelope toward him. Then explain this. I opened the envelope. Not cash. Paper. I laid the property records in front of Evan. The address, the LLC, the signature. Then I added the photo of the house. The exact same angle my grandchild had shown me. All the color drained from his face. I asked softly, but every word landed like a blade. You said you were broke. So what is this house? Evan flinched, then forced a laugh. Dad, you've got it wrong. It's my friend's house. I cut him off and pointed at the signature. Your friend's name is Evan? Or whose signature is this? He started shuffling the papers like a man trying to outrun them. I just signed for him. It was paperwork. That's all. I placed the money flow chart on the table, arrows leading from my transfer to the escrow payment on the exact day of the down payment. Paperwork? Then why does it line up exactly with the day I sent extra rent money? That's when he snapped. So you've been spying on me now? Violating my privacy? I looked him dead in the eye. Your private life doesn't belong in my wallet. He started breathing harder, and then he said the one thing that exposed him completely. I have a life too. I'm raising her on my own. If you're going to help, then help all the way. Help all the way. That's how he saw me. Not as family. As an ATM. My voice dropped. I help my grandchild. I do not help you build a house. He switched tactics and tried guilt instead. If you do this, she'll go without. You want her to suffer? They gracted BN. I ended it. The thing making her suffer is you, forcing her to stay quiet so you can live well. Evan went silent because he understood what just happened. He had said it out loud, and the recording was still running. The next morning, I did the one thing I'd avoided for 7 years. I tightened the leash. Dana filed for financial transparency and a change in how support for the child would be handled. I opened a supervised education fund in my grandchild's name. Tuition. I would pay directly to the school. Insurance. I would pay directly to the provider. Any necessary expense would need a real receipt before it got approved. Not one more free dollar for Evan. I sent him a formal email. From this point on, no money will pass through your hands. All financial communication goes through counsel. Evan called screaming. I didn't answer. I was done playing family with a man who lived off lies. My grandchild asked me, voice shaking, Grandpa, is Dad mad at me? I knelt down and answered firmly, you did nothing wrong. Telling the truth was the right thing. The person at fault is the one who made you keep secrets. I told her one more thing. If your dad says bad things about me, you don't have to argue. You only have to say, I want to talk to Grandpa, because children are not supposed to be warriors. They just need a way out. Evan started texting, begging at first. Then came the threats. You're never going to see her again. Dana just smiled. He's threatening you because he lost the money. Not because he's worried about the child. Oh, and for the first time in 7 years, I felt lighter. Not because I had won, because I had finally stopped helping him do it. A few weeks later, my grandchild came over for the weekend. She didn't look over her shoulder as much anymore. She sat there drawing, then said something that caught in my throat. Grandpa, I don't have to hide things as much now. No 11-year-old should ever have to say that. Evan, on the other hand, was different. When the money stopped flowing, that new house started to feel heavy. The man who used to show off now had to deal with a mortgage, contractors, bills, all of it. And the people who were there for the money left just as quickly as they came. My grandchild told me, "That lady doesn't come around anymore." I just nodded. I already knew. That wasn't love. It was a lifestyle funded. Dana kept me updated. The court required Evan to provide full expense reports related to the child. All support had to be transparent. No more pulling money into the dark. I stood in front of my daughter's photo and said quietly, "I'm sorry I got it wrong for 7 years. But I'm fixing it now." My grandchild walked over and held my hand. "Grandpa, I just want everyone to tell the truth." I looked at her and said, "From now on, that's how this family lives. With the truth. And that is something Evan could never buy. No matter how many houses he owns. The trust of a child. I lost 7 years to a fake story of being broke. I lost over $200,000 to a greedy man. But what I almost lost forever was a child growing up believing that telling the truth makes adults angry. Now I understand something clearly. Help without boundaries isn't kindness. It's enabling. That new house, it didn't hurt me as much as this. My grandchild being taught to stay quiet around her own grandfather. So let me ask you, what would you do? Would you cut everything off? The moment you see the first red flag, even if you're afraid the child might go without? Or would you stay quiet, gather evidence, and strike once so clean they have no way out? And the hardest question, when someone uses a child as a shield, do you keep the peace? Or do you make things uncomfortable so the child can be safe? I chose safety because money can be earned again. But a child's childhood, once it's shaped by lies, you don't get to buy that back.